We're up to the Mishnah on Kuf Mem Ches Amid Beis. Kuf Mem Ches Amid Beis, and these are things that are usher to do because you may come to go ahead and write things down on Shabbos. These are not Malachas D'Oraisa, they're Gezeres D'Rabbanan, of things you might come to do on Shabbos. If you allow you to do one thing, you may come to do this. Says the Gemara, Moina Adam es Archav, es Paparoisav Mipiv. A person can count his guests and he can count his different delicacies with his mouth. Avaloi min ksav, but not from the ksav. If he wrote it from Erev Shabbos, such and such amount of orchim, and I invited, and then he decides the list is too comprehensive and he wants to go ahead and cut it short, right? He's not allowed to read this from the ksav. We're scared. We're going to see two reasons in the Gemara. Machlokes in Rabbi and Abaya. One, maybe you'll come to erase Shema Yimchak, or maybe you'll come to read shtaros. You may come to read a business documents according to Rashi, according to Tosfos, even secular letters. So the reason why you don't read Midah Kasav is Gezerah, Shema Yimchak, you might erase, or Shema Yikro, you may come to read. That's the two days of the Amoraim. A second halacha that has nothing to do with the first. Mafis Adam and Banav and Bnei Beisai ala Shulchan. A person, let's say you got a lot of kids, and they all want the drumstick, right? And there's only 2 drumsticks. So you have a raffle. Who gets the drumsticks? You're able to go ahead and make a raffle for food, and who gets what. But it's very interesting to note, it will see as the Gemara, that's only for your people in your house. It's not for outsiders. If you were outsiders, you're not allowed to make a raffle, as we'll see. Another halacha, you should not go ahead and say, one person gets this big part and this one gets the small part. It has to be the equal parts. Okay, we'll see a reason for this in the Gemara. Rashi says, Shabbos, achas gedola v'achas ketana, v'zakos b'gedola hazoich al pi hagoyro, amischayv al pi hagoyro l'ketani yitlenu. One Farish time will explain the reason. Very interesting Gemara. So first halacha is about counting. Second halacha is about goyrel, only for people in your house. And even by people in the house, it's mashma only if the pieces, the portions are equal rather than disproportional. Umatilin chalshim ala kachim, by kachim, the kahanim can go ahead and have a goyrel, b'yomtiv avaloy ala manos. The Gemara is going to ask, what do you mean not on the manos? What else are you going ahead and raffling off if you're not raffling off the different portions? So on Yontif, you can go ahead and raffle off the portions of Yontif, and we'll see what Alamanis means. So going back to the first din of the Mishnah, this din of not counting from a list. My time, what's the reason you can't count from a list? Rav Bibi, Omar Gezerah Shema Yimchak. Says Rav Bibi, you may come to go ahead, if we let you read, you may come to go ahead and erase. Says Rashi, Mina Archim, you decide, you go down the list, you see there's a guy there who eats a lot. Hypothetically, you're going down the list, you see a guy named Abe Weinrib, right? So what are you going to say? Listen, I want Abe Weinrib to come. He brings his own good food. But you see another guy that, you may come to erase his name. You'll have Charata, Shazimin, Yosim and Aroy, you got too many. And you're going to erase it at the Shabbos when he invites him, right? You shouldn't invite this person. So therefore, you can't read a list, Shema Yimchak, maybe you'll come to erase. That's the Bibi's reason. Abaya Omar, Gezerah Shema Yikra. Abaya says, maybe you'll come to go ahead and read. What will you come to read? Says Rashi, right? Says Rashi, Kol Hani Shema Yikra, B'shtaria Yoita Shel Mekach U'Memcha Kamar. You may come to read business documents. Business documents says Tosfos, B'shtaria Yoita is Pirish B'kuntra Shel Mekach U'Memcha, U'Le'el B'per Kol Kisvei Pirish Igerish Hashluchais Limsa Chayfetz. It's the Geras that you go ahead and secular letters, and we know the pasuk in Shaya that we say Mimsa Chavsecha. You should not go ahead. You should leave all your secular external things on Shabbos, and therefore be asur on Mimsa Chavsecha, not dealing with the business dealings, nor being going ahead and being diverted from Shabbos. So 2 possibilities: Rabbi Shema Yimchak and Abaya Shema Yikra. Shema Yikra Shtari Edoitis. Now, my binayu, what's the difference? What's the difference between them? Says the Gemara. The kosav, it could be nayu, my benayu, it could be nayu, the kosav akoisel umidli. You wrote it high up on the wall. Mandam Hashem yimchak, you're not going to go ahead and erase it. Like Hashinan. So let Abaya, let Rabbi be worried. However, according to Abaya, even though it's high, maybe you come to read it. Chayshina, you'll be chayish. Okay? So that seems to be a pretty clear distinction. In one case, if it's very high, you won't be able to reach there to go ahead and erase it. You won't be able to go ahead, get up there and erase it. But you would be able to go up there and read it. Okay, for those people who just came, we're discussing that you can't read a document on Shabbos because you can't read a guest list on Shabbos either because you may come to erase or you may come to go ahead and read other shtaros, other things. So a nafkamina between the two would be in a place that's high where you can't be machakit, where you can't go ahead. It's written on the wall high up. You can't go ahead and erase it, but you would be able to read it. So later baya, it would be not okay. Later bibi, it would be okay. Read the Gemara. Ulamandi Hashem yikra chashinan. In other words, why is it mutually exclusive? Both seem to make sense. So even like Bibi, that Shema Yimchak, why doesn't he buy into a bias pshat, the Shema Yikra? So even if it's in a high place where you can't go ahead and be machakit, maybe you should fear that maybe you may come to read it. Visu l'Shema Yimchak chashinan. What do you mean? And this din that you said unequivocally that you go ahead and you erase it. 1 second, but Tanya, it says la yikra la'ara ner. Earlier in the Masechta, right? We said you cannot go ahead and read ba'ara ner because shema yata. Maybe you guys can go ahead and knock the lamp, and the oil is going to be drawn to the wick. V'yamar Rabba afilu gavaya shtei kaimos, even if it's high, two heights of a man. It's way above you that you can't touch it. Afilu gavaya shtei maratoyim, 2 ox goats. Afilu asara bottom zel gavizeh. It's much higher. La yikra. So you see, you don't read. In other words, once the chacham made a takana, even if physically, they want that you can't do it, you shouldn't be able to do it. Meaning, what do we see from this gezerah of Rabbi Metomnin? That since the chachamim said that you mishemayata, even in a hechatimsa, even where you can't possibly go ahead and reach the lamp, they lay plug, guys. We have a rule of chachamim, lay plug with gezerah. They didn't make a distinction in the gezerah. Once they said you can't read a lamp on Shabbos, of course maybe you come to touch it. Even where you can't possibly touch the lamp, it's not permitted. So what was your distinction? According to Mandiyamar of Bibi, that you can't erase it. If I put it high up on the wall where I can't erase it, it should be permitted. But 1 second, once the Chacham made a gezerah, light plug, even physically, just like physically, if you can't read, it doesn't make a difference, and you can't reach the lamp. Who in erasing, even though you can't reach it, there should be no difference. So I don't understand the difference that you made. You, Rabbi, said the reason is Shema Yimcha. You, Abaya, said Shema Yikra. You want to give an afkamina, but it's high up on the wall. First of all, 1 second, light Rabbi, why isn't he worried about reading? And straight Rabbi, even if you can't go ahead and erase it, you still should have to worry. Just like Shema Yikra. I mean, by the lamp. I didn't care. So back to first base. What's the nafkamina between Rav Bibi, who said Shema Yimchak, and Abai, who said Shema Yikra? Ella, Ikaminaya, what's the difference? The custom of Koisplay, you wrote it low on the wall. Lamandam Shema Yimchak, like Rav Bibi, Chashinan. It's very easy to erase. Lamandam Shema Yikra, like Chashinan, like Abai, you're not bending down to read it. Why? Because Guda Bishtara like Niklif. A wall and a star, you won't come to go ahead, and just because you can read a wall, you won't come to read a star. Fred the Gemara, again, the same kasha, just in reverse. Shema Yikra, Leicha Shema Yimchai, like the Mandam maybe say, Shema Yikra, like the Mandam says, maybe you'll come to read it. Let him, in other words, according to Abaya, let him be Chayish Rav Bibi's time of Shema Yimchak. Again, as we said, they're both mistaber, they both make sense. So let's be worried. And since it's low and it's in a erasable range, let's worry about it. Ella ikabinayu. What's the nafkamina between the two? The choyik atavlo pinkis. It's engraved on a tavla in a tablet or in a pinkis in a ledger, engraved not in ink, engraved. So therefore, it's unerasable. Now it's unerasable. You will be able to read it. The guest list. If you had the guest list engraved in a ledger, you will be able to read it on Shabbos. Because the whole Gezer is Shema Yimchak. I'm not worried about that because you can't be Machak. You can't erase it. However, here also, since you could read it, you'd have to worry about going ahead reading something else. You would not be able to read a guest list from a ledger that was engraved. Chashino. Good. Okay. Let the Mandiyama, again, we're going back, this circuitous questioning. Even like Mandiyama Shema Yimchak, let's worry Shema Yikra. Let Abaya, let's Rabbi, let's worry about Abaya. Just like a wall, you won't come to read a star. So to a pinkis or a ledger, you won't come to read a star. That we don't say that, but Tanya, Mona Adam Kama B'Vdim, the Kama B'Chutz. You can count how many people get the VIP seats inside and how many people are in the bleachers outside. The Kama Monos also Ne'efafneim, and how much portions each one is going to get. Miksav Shal Gabi Akoisel, Avaloi Miksav Shal Gabi Tavlu Pinkis. You can read it from the wall, but you can't read it from a tavla and a pinkis. Now, Heichidami, how is it written on the ledger and the pinkis? And we said you could read it off the wall, but you can't read it off the ledger. Heichidami, if you're going to tell me it's ink, what's the difference between a wall? What's the difference between a ledger? One that you could read it off the wall, you can't read it off the ledger. Elolav, it must be the chayik. It must be it's engraved in the ledger. And nonetheless, it says you can't read it. So back to the original question. Even let's be Shema Yikra. And if you're worried Shema Yikra, even if it's in a tavlo or pinkis, I might come to read secular shtaros. So what's the nafkamina between Rav Bibi who said Shema Yimchak and Abaye said Shema Yikra? Aloylam the kasav akoisel umidli. Original question, original chat. It's written high on the wall. I had a thing about loy plug, who the kakashlach the Rabbi. Rabbi's question, guys, of loy plug. In other words, just like Rabbi did not permit to read by the Ora Ner, despite the fact you would not be able to get to the Ner to go ahead Shema Yata and incline it, and he didn't permit it, right? So too over here, he will not let you go ahead and read off the wall. He won't let you read off the wall. He won't let you read off the wall. And says the word, and the Ram, in fact, Hanoi, whether we say loy plug is in fact the machlokes Tanoim. The Tanya, Moina Adam es archav, a person can count his guests, ves paparoisav, and he can count his delicacies, mipiv, our Mishnah, from his mouth, avaloim min aksav, but not from the ksav. Now, and the Chachamim, and because the Chachamim do not go ahead and make a distinction. They say, that's it. And Rav Achamatim Miksav Shagabi Kaisel. The Chachamim did not make a distinction where it's written, guys. Whether it's written on the wall, whether it's written on a ledger, it didn't make a difference. Why? Because Loi Plug Chachamim. When the Chachamim said you can't read, period. That's it. That's Rabbah. Whereas Rav Acha disagrees. Rav Achamatim Miksav Shagabi Kaisel. Because he buys into the fact you won't come to go ahead and mix up a gudba, a wall, with a star. So whether we say loy plug, in fact, is a machlokes between the Tanakama and Rav Acha. Like the Tanakama, the Chachamim, you do say loy plug, and therefore even on a wall you won't be able to read. And like Rav Acha, since a wall is different than a star, you will be able to read. Heichidami, I jumped the gun. Here's the answer. Written below Lecha Shema Yimchak. Elalav the Kasav Midli. It's written up high. Ushmamino the Rabbi Tanoihi. It's a machlokes Tanoim. The Rabbi agrees with the Chachamim loy plug, and Rav Acha disagrees with Rabbi. Rav Acha would say you could read off a wall. Shmamino, you have a good raya. Bahani Tanoi, this machlokes fellas between the Chachamim and Rav Acha. The Chachamim saying loy plug, and Rav Acha saying yes plug, meaning when the Chachamim made a takana you can't read, period. No ifs, ands, and buts, no matter where. And Rav Acha, no, if it's a wall, you could read. This machlokes is another machlokes, right? The Tanya, ein royin b'mar b'Shabbos. A person is not able to look into a mirror on Shabbos. You're not able to look into a mirror on Shabbos. Now, doesn't make a difference what the mirror is. We don't make a difference if it's attached to a wall. We don't make it if it's not attached to the wall. We don't make a difference if it's made of leather. We don't make a difference if it's made of metal. It doesn't make a difference. You cannot use a mirror. We'll get in a second to see why not. Rabbi permitted to use a mirror. B'mara hakavua b'koisel, in a mirror that was attached to the wall. Now mashna kavua b'koisel. Why? Guys, what are you worried about? You're worried if you look in the mirror, you're going to see something that you're not so happy with, right? So you may come to go ahead and get a scissors or something to go ahead and give yourself a little trim. So if it's attached to the wall, by the time you go get it, you'll have time to remember. So they come and say, even when the mirror is not attached, till you have to know it's the time, guys, you look in a mirror. Wherever the mirror, whether it's attached to a wall or it's in your hands, you still have to go get the scissor. And that span of time to go get the scissor, you'll remember Shabbos. So there should not be a distinction right now in the Havamina of the Gemara between a mirror that's attached and disattached. If the concern is that you may take a quick trim, so the concern is that span of time from Re'iyah in the mirror to going getting the scissor. So what difference is there how you saw the Re'iyah? Whether it was a mirror on the wall or a mirror off the wall, it should make a difference. Says the Gemara. We're speaking about a mirror that's made from metal, and this was a mirror that they used to have on the edge. It was a sharp edge, so you would go ahead and be able to cut your hair with it. So if it's attached to the wall, then you won't be able to take it off the wall. It's attached to the wall. But if it's mobile, if it's in your hand, and you take a quick look and you don't like what you see, then you won't even have the span of remembering it's Shabbos because it's a dual-purpose mirror. You'll be able to go ahead and cut right away. So that's what the machlokes is. What's the reason they say a mirror of mateches is asa? A person is apt to go ahead and remove nimin that are loose. So over here, what's the machlokes over here? We very geshmak, right? The Omar who doesn't make a distinction whether it's kavua, not kavua, it's all asar, like plug rabbanon. Like the Omar who says there's a reason to make a distinction, then that would be like Rav Acha. That would be like Rav Acha said before. Rav Acha said that by the ksav we make a distinction between the wall and off the wall. Hu adin, the Mandiyam who says by Remeya, who makes a distinction between a mirror on the wall and a mirror off the wall. Now concerning
a medicine cabinet today, that the scissors sitting right there in the medicine cabinet would be a problem, according to this sheet.
Again, it's not really. The halachas of mirrors are very, it's pretty clear in Shulchan Aruch. Men are not supposed to use mirrors on they're not supposed to groom themselves in front of a mirror. They're not supposed to groom themselves. That's an issa of a silvas ish gever. You're not supposed to go ahead and wear a woman's clothing. Included in that issa is the issa of grooming yourself in front of a mirror. Mirrors are made for women. Mirrors are made for women. As a matter of fact, I told you on a few occasions, a Maisa with Yosef Chaim Zvanefeld. Yosef Chaim Zvanefeld was the Rav in the old Yishuv of Yerushalayim before the Medina began. He's been there in the turn of the century, the 20s, the 30s, and somebody once showed him a picture of himself, and he said, "Cooked oisver in Chayid, looks like a fine Jew." And he didn't know he was looking at himself because he never saw himself what he looked like. He didn't know what he looked like. He said, "Cooked oisver in Chayid." He said, "It looks like a fine Jew." He didn't know what he looked like. So again, it's not. A man is allowed to look in the mirror to make sure that he's beseder. You said to your hair, in the morning that you're having a bad hair day, your hair's this way, whatever. You're allowed to, but again, to groom yourself in front of a mirror, not. We don't have these mirrors that that they're talking about. We don't have this mirrors that they're talking about, and I don't think any person is going to go ahead, look in a mirror, and so I think the halacha is pretty clear. You're able to look in the mirror just to see how you're doing. You're not supposed to go ahead and groom yourself in front of a mirror. That seems to be the halacha. Okay, the geya us loy plug, whether loy plug is the rice or not. Again, Rabbi brought in the case of Shemayate. Shemayate was the din daraisa because you can go ahead and bring the. But we see the machlekes layate b'darabanan also. These are the rabbanan the gedinim with Shema Yikra. Maybe you'll come to go ahead. Shema Yimchak. So it's machlekes whether loy plug or not. Tan rabbanan kasav ksava mahalich tachas atzura. Don't when you read this Gemara, do not leave till I get to the end of it. Okay, this is one of the Gemaras. Do not leave till I get to the end of this Gemara. Ksav hamahalich tachas hatzura v'tachas hadik yonis. You have a ksav that's a caption underneath a picture or an image. Asa l'kraisa b'Shabbos. It's asa to read it on Shabbos, right? Again, you're worried that Shema you may contribute shtaros. V'dik yoina atzma af b'chor lo asa l'stakel ba. And the dik yoina and the image, even on during the week, it's asa to mistakel. Mishum shenemar, because it says, Al tifnu el alilim, do not turn to the idols. My Talmuda, Amar Chanan, al tifnu el bidaychem. Don't turn to something that a person has in his mind. Rashi says, el midaychem, al asher atem osim midas levavchem. That you go ahead and make from your mind the chol shalachem and from yourself. Alilim is lashon chalolim, is lashon of what? Chol is like corpses. So again, there's a din that you shouldn't go ahead and look at images. And so what is this? We all look at images. What's going on over here? So very important Taisvis, and this is the halacha. It says Taisvis. Nira, change the scarsa. The asuyo l'shem avodas galulim. We're speaking about looking at something that was made l'shem avodas zara. Avalinoi, but to go to a museum and to look at a picture of an artist, mutter. That would be mutter. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, the sons of the Kedoshim, he was a Kaddish because he didn't look at the image on a coin. Other images, happy mistakli. On the coin he didn't look because it had a graven image on it. But any other image he did look. So Taisa says this halacha of looking at images is only if the image was made l'shem avodah zarah. If it wasn't shem avodah zarah, then you're permitted to go ahead and look at it. Said that they say a story about somebody showed up in Sukkot in Meir Sha'arim, and they walked into the sukkah and they saw Azaz Shein Mishpacha. They were surrounding a little baby in a cradle. There's a little Jesus there. How would they know? So someone from China sent to Eretz Yisrael a bunch of these nativity scenes, and Azaz Shein Mishpacha there, you know. So you talk about him mistaken Avodah Zarah. Very interesting. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. Mapis Adam Alban. We said you can go ahead and you have around the table. The kids are fighting over the food. Go ahead and make a gyro. Go ahead and make a gyro. In my house, we ate tops. Believe it or not, everyone eats bottoms, chicken bottoms. If I take a poll, but in my house was the tops. That was it. So we only had we had bottomless chickens. We had only tops. My father worked in Mazon, was no problem. He was able to do it like nothing. It was magic. We only had tops. So now, in Banov, in Bnei Beislei, you can make the gyral only with the people in your house. The im acher loy, but not others can't make the gyral. My timer, kid Rav Yehuda Meshmuel, like Rav Yehuda Meshmuel. Now, who is Rav Yehuda Meshmuel? Dam Rav Yehuda Meshmuel. Bnei Chabura hamakpidim ze al ze. Bnei Chabura. Rashi says. These guys, they're not very benevolent, generous fellows. In other words, you're getting a top, I want the same top. I don't want anything weighs less or anything that's more. You're getting the bottom, you're getting the drumstick, I want the same thing. I'm not trading a top for a drumstick. It's not working out over here. So Bnei Chabura, the Makbid Zalzeh, if they go ahead and make a gyro, they should never eat together, guys. Measuring, they're going to measure out, they're going to weigh it out. Mishemishko or Misheminyan, counting who got more. So these guys, never should eat together. Mishum loivin, u'poirin, b'yantif, forget about it. These guys should never eat together. Only, this can be done, this amid base, only b'nei mishpacha. Uchedivrei Hillel, after Mishum ribis. Again, we saw the Gemara saw b'sah. You can't go ahead and lend and borrow a piece of a loaf of bread. If you're makbid on the other guy, he's gonna get a loaf of bread and it's worth more. You can come to ribis problems. Our kids are people who are not mivata and they're not on each other. They come to a bunch of choishin mishpat tikashailas. Ihachi, if you're telling me that this is the case, that they're worried, banu b'nei beisay nami. So what? So l'chayr, what your kids are makbid also. It says banu b'nei beisay. How do you time it? Don't review them around. Mutal lahalveis banu b'nei beisay beribis. You're able to go ahead and charge ribis to your kids. Kedei lahat imam tam ribis. The bottom line is these kids are living by their father. It's all from his money, so it's not ribis. But you're going to play Monopoly and know that you're going to go ahead and build in this. You can teach a kid what it means to go ahead and be toying time ribis, that he should stay away from it. So Memela, when it comes to making a viral and one getting more and one getting less, right? It's good to teach them what it means to be unfair in business. But the Mishnah said, but you could make a gyro manal gadol kumar katana. It's going on the kids. We said you can make a gyro, but you could make a gyro if one kid's going to get a big piece and one kid's going to get a small piece. But if you're telling me now that you're supposed to teach the kid the time of ribis, what's the big spritz if one gets a big piece and one gets a small piece? And the Mishnah said you can't do it if one gets a big and one gets a small one. So we're going to go ahead and tweak the Mishnah. Nami says, you're right. Einachinami. Einachinami, you could do it. The Chsurim Mechser and the Mishnah is missing words. Mapis Adam in Banav and Bnei Beisa Yala Shulchan. He can make a gyro. Afilu, you're adding the word, guys. Here's the Chsurim Mechser. Afilu Mana Gedoyla Keneged Mana Katana you could add. Even Mana Gedoyla Keneged Mana Katana you could add. No problem. My timer, Kedav Yehuda Marav. You want to teach your kids to be Toyim Tam Ribis. In Banav and Bnei Beisa in Acherim Loi. My timer, how come with Acherim not? Kedav Yehuda Shmuel, who said that that people who are makbid on each other are going to be over on Mana, Mishkel, Minyan, Ribis, Allah, Zachin, Loivin, Poirin. So therefore, when it comes to your kids, you can make a gyro, even a big piece and a small piece. When it comes to people who are makbid on each other, then you cannot go ahead and you cannot go ahead and do this. My timer, Mishum Kuvya. This is because of gambling. Right? You're going to gamble. You're going to put money in a pot. Who gets the big piece? Who gets the small piece? And we get into the whole Gemara of gambling and asmachta. We will hold off on this for a later date. We'll do Be'ez Hashem gambling. Again, basically gambling. The problem, if you hold, is the problem with gambling is the person really doesn't want to give up his money. So it's a shtickle gezel de rabbanan. Right? He doesn't want to give it up. He doesn't expect he's going to lose. Right? So since he doesn't expect he's going to lose, he doesn't give it up willingly. So that's basically the problem, according to one of the Rishonim. Says Gemara Vayta, Matil and Chaloshim. We said you can place on Kachim. You can go ahead and place a goyrel on Yontif. V'loy ala monos. Maya v'loy ala monos. What do you mean you cannot go ahead and place loy ala monos? What does it mean loy ala monos? Not on the pieces. So Rabbi Yaakov, the Bas Yaakov says Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Bas Yaakov, avaloy ala monos shel choyel bi Yontif. Meaning, if it's a Yontif and you're getting the pieces that were from the korban on Yontif, then you make a goyrel. Let's say it's a day old. Let's say it's pieces left over from the day before. Let's say it's a shlomim, fellas, that there's no noisa yet, right? Shlomim is 2 days and a night. So the day before, you cannot divide up choyel dikka food on Yontif. Yontif dikka food on Yontif you could. Choyel dikka food on Yontif you can't. Shita, why should you be able to? So other tema, choyel ksiv. We say the people, we compare the people to Kahanim, but not in a positive way. They're fighting like the Kahanim. So I'd say, Afilu manas techel nami. I would say manas techel, you should make a gyro so they shouldn't fight. Kamash Malon, you don't make the gyro. From Rabbi Yaakov, Bas Yaakov. Okay, now this gets into a whole agadita. We get into a whole agadita, and the reason we bring it in is because it was stated by Ruthie, the electrician's here. Okay, and we're going to get into this all because of it was stated by Yaakov Berei de Bas Yaakov. Okay, this the same person. And what does he say? Kol shechaveru nenash al yadai, any chaver that is nenash al yadai, you go ahead and you cause him problems. Right? Nenash al yadai, ein machnis na'isay mechitza shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. This person will be not allowed in the mechitza shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, he apparently is just a means of bringing about a punishment to somebody else. Nonetheless, he will not be allowed in the Mechitza Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a very, very severe way of thinking. This person is obviously being punished as Mechuyev, but you're the means of bringing the person down. You will not be allowed in the Mechitza Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we're going to look for a source for this. Now, it says the following. Now, one of the Rishonim in the Torah that we know has no chelik to Olam Haba is the Melech Achav. Achav is married to Ezevel. They gave Eliyahu Navi a run for the money. They say the Gemara says that Achav, there was not one Clement Eretz Yisrael that was not served as an Avodah Zarah. There wasn't one furrow. There was Avodah Zarah galore in his time, and he wanted a certain kerem because he wanted the kerem of Navos, and he went ahead. They got Eidos against Navos, and then they killed Navos. So here's the story. What do you know this from? It says the following: Vayom Hashem mi yifates Achav. Who can go ahead and entice Achav to come and fall in Ramas Gilad and get killed there? One said this and another one said this. A spirit came out. And he says, I'll go ahead and I'll entice Achav into battle where he'll die. Hashem says to him, go. And he'll bring a lying, all the Nevi'im will lie and say, yeah, go to battle. That's what he said. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Tefate, go entice him. You'll be successful. Say, V'asekain. Say, go and do this. What's the lashon of say? What does it say, go and do this? And Vamina, my Ruach, who was this Ruach, fellas? Some of Yechon said, Ruach shel Navos. In fact, it was the Ruach, it was the spirit of Navos, the one who Achav had killed, who wants to take revenge on Achav for having killed him. I might say, what does it mean, say? Some Rav, say mechitzasi. Go ahead and leave my mechitza. In other words, right now you're in the Dalan Amis of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're near Kadosh Baruch Hu in his surroundings, in the Shechina. But say, Pashtus, why? Because you're going to bring about the death of Achav. So therefore you have a raya that anyone who brings the downfall of another is not going to be allowed in the lot, in the place of Kadosh Baruch Hu. It says, you have no raya. People who says falsehoods won't be in front of Kadosh Baruch Hu. So maybe the Ruach of Nabais is not allowed to be there, not because he brought Achav's downfall, just because he lied. A liar will not be allowed there. Here's the pasuk, and we're speaking about Nebuchadnezzar. What does it say? Savata koloi mikavoid shesei gam ata ve'ha'oro. You go ahead. Now, this guy was involved with Mishkav Zacha. He was involved in homosexuality. Gemara's can go on now, today, and tomorrow. So he goes. He tells us, Savata kolim b'shem. You Nebuchadnezzar, you're satiated with shame. Shesei gam ata ve'ha'oro. Drink just as the oral would drink. Savata kolim mikavoid said Nebuchadnezzar. And Shtei Gamata Ba'ol is at Tzidkiah. Tzidkiah, who had been, I guess, Nerva from Nebuchadnezzar. So you see that what he brought down Nebuchadnezzar, and therefore, since he brought down Nebuchadnezzar, he is not going to be near Kadosh Baruch Hu. Chada, the Kulit Krab Nebuchadnezzar said the whole pasuk. To tell you why it's wrong, the whole pasuk is speaking about Nebuchadnezzar, and it's not speaking about what. It's not speaking about. Tzidkiyahu. For Tzidkiyahu, he was a tzaddik. Might have a little mevilei. What could he have done? Don't have you done a rav, right? He wanted to do that terrible thing to him. What could he have done? So we need another proof that the person who goes ahead and causes the downfall of another is not allowed in the mechitza of Hashem. It says gam enosh tzaddik leitoiv. Punish for the tzaddik is not good. Leitoiv. Ain loy toiv el ra. When it says loy toiv, it means ra. Uksiv ki loy kel chafetz resha. You're not a God who wants resha. Ata lo yagur chara. You can't live with ra. So tzaddik at Hashem lo yagur b'megar chara. You're a tzaddik, and near you no ra could be. So therefore, we have a raya that what that anything that's raw cannot be gar in Hashem's. Okay, I have to go now, and I have an electrician here. So I wish.